countdown has begun.
To the second annual Paranormal Restore. It was so successful the first time they knew they had to do it again. Hosted by Bruce Barraclough Jr. and St. Albans Sanatorium.
With special guest speakers, Eric Knapp, Pat Bizard O'Keefe, the Connor sisters, Lyle and Tana Lotz from Twisted, and Chris Belazon, just to mention a few of the special guests.
This event is going to be held on May 21st, 2016, for the price of $50 per ticket, with the proceeds going back to restore St. Albans Sanatorium. Not only do you get lectures, but you also get investigations. Leave your mark on St. Albans just as it leaves its mark on numerous people that come through its doors.
Order your tickets online at www.stalbans-virginia.com.
Welcome to Within the Chaos with your host, Rodney Shortridge, and co-host, Robin Dalton.
Thank you, Holly and Tara, and the Vibe Radio Network. You can listen in by calling in to 519.
Rod?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry I couldn't hear you there for a minute. We cut off or something.
Let me see. No, you're there.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
That's kind of weird. You're doing my thing, and you're like, Rod, huh? What? There's a voice in the background.
Well, the last thing I heard was you started to say the phone number and cut out.
Well, they say they've been having technical problems tonight, so let's hope we get through this hour with not anything happening to us. Well, from deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, welcome everyone, and thank you for listening to Within the Chaos. My name is Rodney Shortridge. Most people, as Robin just said, call me Rod. I'll be your host tonight, along with my co-host, loyal co-host, Robin Dalton.
Hey, y'all.
Tonight, our special guest is Dr. Michelle Gomph. Dr. Gomph is an author and associate professor of English at Concord University, located at Athens, West Virginia, where she is currently teaching a class on anti-heroes and lecturing on pop culture. She has taught at Concord for the past 14 years. So, Robin, what's been going on with you this week?
Oh, Lord, Rodney. Let me tell you, I just don't want to adult no more. I want to go hide in a fork and just color in a coloring book all day long.
Hell, I do that now.
They always said, growing up, you always in such a hurry to grow up. And now I tell mine, slow it down. You don't want to be no grown up. This sucks. But, just busy as always when you have kids and family and between doctor's appointments and trying to get cars fixed and pay bills. I'm telling you, it never ends.
No, even when you die, they still try to get something from you.
I
know I've had a rough week. Half Pint, that's my granddaughter. She's had pneumonia the past few days, and that's about to wear me out and her.
Bless her little heart. She's so sweet. I tell you, it's just been one of those weeks that everything, that could go wrong has went wrong. Anything that could hurt your feelings has hurt my feelings. I have cried. I have screamed. I have actually probably never be welcome back at the hospital here in town with open arms anymore because, well, I was a little too opinionated yesterday with my niece.
Oh, if you got a pocket full of money, they accept you with open arms. Don't you worry about that.
Well, yeah, I'm poor. I got no.
You got a pocket full of money, everybody accepts you.
I'm so poor. I'm po. I can't even afford the second O and the R. I'm just po.
Well, I see that Dr. Gumph's on. I guess we'll go ahead and get her on here and get her telling us about her books and stuff. And I'd like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Gomph. Hello, Dr. Gomph, and thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I can kind of identify with what y'all were just saying about your own weeks. It's I've had similar experiences, but it's good to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I know my daughter, she thinks the world of you, and she's telling me, she's like, oh, you got to get her on, Daddy. You got to get her on. I'm like, well, she'll come on.
Your daughter is a hoot. She also has shared many stories about you, and she said you're going to come to her graduation. I can't wait to meet you.
And believe every one of them, she is telling the truth.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, she is trying to be a writer, so I'm sure she's stretched the truth a little bit more than what I have.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Well, Dr. Gomph, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I've been at Concord teaching there for 14 years, and before that I taught a lot of different places part-time, and I enjoy teaching my classes, but like today I taught 4 classes back-to-back, and it's exhausting, and I have a long commute because I teach in West Virginia, but I live in Roanoke with my family.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but I really enjoy my teaching, and today was one of the days I taught my class on anti-heroes, and that's always exciting. So today we talked about Hannibal Lecter, and next week we're going to talk about Walter White and Breaking Bad, and it's a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, cool. So can you tell us what got you on the path to become a writer and a professor and a doctor? And a doctor.
Well, when I was growing up, writing was always one of the things I enjoyed, and of course, when you're little, you have all these different ideas of things you're going to want to be. So I remember cycling through things when I was little, like architect and parapsychologist and all those kind of things. And I just realized I wanted to be an English major in college, and I took the classes and I loved them, and I wrote poetry at that time, and what do you do with an English major? Well, there's a lot of stuff you can do, but I decided I wanted to teach because I loved my own professor so much. So I went on and got a master's degree, and then I got my doctorate, and now I'm teaching classes in composition and argument and in literature, and trying to find time to do my own research and write, and takes a long time to do that when you're trying to teach and do all the other things at the university they expect you to do, all the service and the talking to students and taking care of stuff. But I like doing my research when I can, and the one book I have is about William Blake and Thomas Harris, and I've got a couple other projects I'm trying to start working on, but I really need summers to get focused and do a lot of reading and writing.
Wow.
So what's your inspiration? I mean, it's hard to find that inspiration to do what you really want to do. So what would you say is yours for writing and teaching?
I think, well, like I said, I think part of my inspiration for getting into it was just how much I really admired my own teachers, and I know the influence they had on my life. And so I really wanted to have that influence on somebody else's. Part of it's my parents. They always encouraged me to just, go for what I wanted to do. They didn't tell me necessarily to choose something that was practical. So there was a little bit of encouragement there as well. And, once I decided that I wanted to teach, it was a question of what kind of a teacher I wanted to be. And to be honest, I don't have the patience to teach classrooms full of smaller children. So decided to go to college. Yep. I have one child, and I couldn't handle a classroom full of them. So my students,
I don't want to spend all day with them.
no. I'll much rather deal with students who range from like 18 to 65. That's much better for me. And I keep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, just what keeps me going is almost like continual inspiration. So today I had several moments where students came up to me after class and told me about connections they'd made between stuff we learned in class and things they were doing in other classes or things they experienced, and that always sort of helps me keep going.
That's great. I know you said your parents, they really inspired you and influenced you. Are there any other people in your life, even your parents included, that have influenced any of your writings, your books and stuff?
Well, the work I have published is nonfiction, so it's not like I drew on any characters, but I can definitely say my husband was my big support in writing it and understanding my crazy schedule and putting up with, like, when I get crazy ideas, bouncing them off of him, and he listens and nods and encourages me.
That's great.
All men just listen and nod. That's all the encouragement you all need. Just listen and nod. Listen and nod. Well, yep. I know you've been teaching classes on anti-heroes and in your literature and pop culture. Can you explain to everybody what is an anti-hero for the ones who don't know?
Well, an anti-hero, if you look it up in the dictionary or on Wikipedia, you're going to get a really general definition of someone who is a hero but doesn't have typical hero qualities. And that is so general, it could be like almost anybody. So really, and a true anti-hero, or really good examples of them, are people who are villains to some extent, but they're doing really bad things for good reasons. Extreme examples of them would be people like, I don't know if you know the comic book character, the Punisher, but he actually goes out and kills people, but he's getting revenge on gangsters. So he's only killing bad people.
So would you consider Deadpool an anti-hero?
Yes, definitely. And not only because he kills people, but he's certainly not a role model, all his actions.
Oh, my God, I'm heartbroken. He is my role model. I do everything.
I love Deadpool, but yes, he's an anti-hero. Many of the Marvel characters are anti-heroes. Iron Man kind of fits that a little bit. Deadpool definitely. And then some other superheroes that people would fit in that category. Sometimes people say Batman is because he's more of like vigilante. But it's most of the time it's somebody who is doing things that are considered criminal or unethical, but they're doing them for good reasons, or they help people by doing them.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your book that you've written. The title of it is Thomas Harris and William Blake, Illusions and the Hannibal Lecter novel. Explain why Hannibal Lecter is an anti-hero.
Well, Hannibal Lecter's an anti-hero in a kind of more complex way, in that he doesn't just kill to help other people. He seems to kill for multiple reasons. If you read the novels or you watch the movies like Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal, or the TV show that was on, he kills sometimes just because he's like annoyed with people. So there's a scene in one of the novels where he kills a flute player for the symphony because he's not that good and hits some bad notes. So that wouldn't be really an anti-heroic thing. However, what makes him an anti-hero is that he is used to capture other killers. So he, in the novels and in the films, is brought in to capture in Silence of the Lambs, James Gomph, and in Red Dragon, Francis Dollaride. So he's brought in to help the FBI. And he also is an anti-hero in that he protects the people he cares about, and he protects those he feels can't fight for themselves. So in the novel Hannibal Rising, his backstory is told, and we find out he tried to protect his little sister from from soldiers, and then after World War II, he tried to protect vulnerable orphans from bullies, and he tried to protect his stepmother from a racist guy who was saying horribly offensive things to her. So he does some bad things to protect people who can't really stand up for themselves, and he's able to catch people that the F can't on their own, and that's kind of what makes him an anti-hero. And to be honest, one of the other appeals about anti-heroes, particularly those in film and television, is also if they're kind of like charming and attractive. So it's sort of like that bad boy kind of thing. Like people are attracted to them even though they're horrible. And Anthony Hopkins is very charming when he gives his lines, and Mads Mikkelsen on the TV show is very charming. And so there's something that kind of draws people into them even though they know they shouldn't be.
Right.
Sounds like you're describing me.
Oh, Colton is sexy. There you go. He's the anti-hero.
Yeah.
And I've always thought I was a hero. Damn, I got it wrong.
Well,
so
people
what
like him.
Yeah, so what made you decide to write about the illusions, in Hannibal Lecter novels? Why not write about some other anti-hero that's in today's pop culture?
Well, part of it is that I just wanted to figure out why I liked it so much. So, and I've always loved the novels and the films. But the other thing is the connection to William Blake, and he's a romantic poet and painter that I wrote my dissertation on. And there are some explicit references to Blake that Harris makes in the novels, and I was trying to figure out why they were there. And so that kind of drew me in to figure out, like, how come these two things that I like separately are connected, and what similarities do they have? And so I started seeing ideas that William Blake had in these Hannibal Lecter novels that, in a way, emphasize Hannibal Lecter as an anti-hero.
Right.
And that essentially it emphasizes that in human nature, nobody is completely good and nobody is completely bad, that we all have the capability for evil in us, and it's just a matter of who decides to give free rein to their evil and who decides to suppress it. And that was the similarity I saw between the two of them, and figured I would explore it. And I was lucky enough to have somebody interested in that idea and agree to publish it.
Well, besides the comic book people we talked about earlier, who would you consider today's anti-heroes, that kind of stand out there to you, kind of similar to Hannibal Lecter?
That we mentioned, there have been several on TV. So the Dexter series that was on Showtime several years ago. Dexter is a serial killer, psychopath who only kills bad people. So he fits in that vein. And Mad Men, actually, some people debate whether, like, Don Draper is an anti-hero. He never kills anybody, but he's not a very nice guy. So you kind of get into he's not really an anti-hero too much. And then there's a subcategory of anti-hero that are essentially just rogues. So like Han Solo in Star Wars kind of fits that, where he ends up doing good things, but he's kind of like a reluctant hero. So that would count as well, probably. And I have not had the opportunity too much to read too many current novels, so most of my examples are probably going to be like comic books or TV currently. Although I did ask my students one day, we were talking about if there can be real life anti-heroes, and they brought up the idea of, like, Edward Snowden might be like a real life anti-hero, somebody who is like a whistleblower kind of a person.
Oh,
Well, yes, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting to think about.
Well, what about ancient cultures as far as their anti-heroes? Like, would Hercules be considered an anti-hero, or
Well, they they certainly go back in literature. As a matter of fact, the course I'm teaching now, we started with John Milton's poem Paradise Lost and looked at Satan as the anti-hero in that. Because essentially what Milton did is he took the story in Genesis and he made Satan really sympathetic. And you kind of root for him, even though you know he's doing wrong, but he makes really good speeches that make the reader understand kind of like why he's rebelling, and they make a lot of sense, that he doesn't want to have to be controlled by anybody else, and he wants his own freedom. And so you have people like that, and then Don Quixote, the Spanish novel, the guy who attacks the windmills. He's considered kind of an anti-hero, and the type he is more of that roguish type, in that he commits crimes, but he doesn't realize he is because he's crazy. So, like, he sets a bunch of prisoners free, but he thinks, well, he sets a bunch of criminals free, but he thinks they've been held prisoner for wrong reasons. He attacks sheep because he thinks they're armies. And you can probably find examples of these going even further back. You can look at the Greek and Roman myths, and their gods aren't even really heroic. They do lots of horrible things.
Well, on your research, I know your research interests have, tend to be towards examining complexity, feminism, and even sexuality. Can you explain that to everyone?
Well, I pretty much, the way I see the world is it's not black and white. I have trouble categorizing things. My students probably get tired of me when they ask me a question. I'm like, well, it's kind of in the middle, is my answer for a lot of things. And so I'm drawn to writers that show the world from that perspective, that there needs to be complexity. Like, you need to have sadness, because if you don't have sadness, you don't fully understand what it is to be happy, that sort of a thing. And then the feminism and the sexuality, I maybe it's just because I am a woman, but I've been drawn to particularly older works that sort of push the boundaries of gender at the time, and point out sort of the constricting social roles, and so emphasizing that society determines what a woman should be, and not necessarily biology. And
right.
The sexuality interest comes into that as well, because it's similar kind of pushing of boundaries with that. And with sexuality, particularly women's sexuality, because in so many things, women are portrayed as either they're sexual and therefore they are evil, or they have no sexual desire and are completely pure. And neither one of those is true. So I kind of like to explore, how women's sexuality is portrayed sort of in an honest and realistic way.
Do you feel like being a female may have? Did you ever have any obstacles? Do you feel like for the fact that you're female, trying to do the things you do?
I haven't, luckily. I mean, part of it is that English is a more like female part of the university. Like, if I'd been in science and I have friends who've been chemists and biologists, it's a little harder for them. I think that some of the problems I have, honestly, are they're not deliberate. Students have a tendency to expect their female professors to be a little more nurturing, and so we kind of end up doing more of the service stuff and helping students and talking to them, because if we turn students away and say we're busy, students are more likely to get upset than if a male professor does that. And I don't even think people are aware that they do that. And the other thing is, a lot of women professors end up doing a lot more of the service work and the committee work. It just sort of happens that way. I do a lot of service work, but I actually like it. I've learned to say no to things if I don't want to do them. I think one of my bigger problems is I'm a short woman. I'm only 5 feet tall, And so I think that gets in my way more than being female, is that since I look small, I sometimes might not be taken seriously.
Oh, honey, I know. I'm 14. People look at me like, really, are you serious? When I try to be, show my authority, they're like, really, come on.
Yep. Yeah, so that's actually been kind of harder, is being short, and people think I'm younger than I am, so it kind of comes as a surprise, and I'm like, no, I have authority.
Well, I know Lee. She's been trying to school me about the feminist, and where she's a feminist, and I must say I've come a long way, and I'm happy that I am a reformed man, I guess.
Men can be feminists.
I don't know if I'm a feminist. I mean, I agree with women, equal pay and for the same job. I agree with that. And if a woman says, I could do a job just like a man, and then, you're talking about y'all being little, you see a man pick up 100-pound sack of beans. Like I told Lee, I expect you to pick up 100-pound sack of beans. And she's like, Daddy, are you crazy? I said, hey, you all want to be feminists, so I'm treating you equally. And she's like, that's not what we mean.
Yes, but there are ways that we can get that sack picked up without actually physically having to do it ourselves, because we're that good.
You all use your sexuality. You sit there and back your big eyes and take your little beauty, and then the guy's like, okay, let me get that for you, ma'am.
That works, yeah.
We work smart, not hard.
Things get done.
Yeah, they get done. And I fall for that trap every time. But I don't mean to go back to anti-heroes, but I have to because of Donald Trump. I don't know what your
oh God.
I don't know what your political thing is, but would you say Donald Trump's an anti-hero?
No. And I will say that because there is nothing heroic about that man.
Oh, God. Lord, I do loved you for a reason. Lord, testify.
There is the only good thing he's done is that he's gotten people interested in the presidential election. But there's no point in being interested in it if you don't really understand how government works. So probably the best thing I can say is that he's gotten a lot of people excited, but that's the best I can say.
I could say a whole lot more, but I know it's not a political interview.
Does it scare you being, does the thought scare you of him actually being elected? I mean, because he's kind of against us women, He's not real.
No, that honestly, it does scare me. The things that he has said frighten me, because he also seems to just want to act before he thinks, and that's really not what we need.
Exactly.
We do not need the world to be angry at us, and I'm kind of worried about what will happen with women, and what will happen with immigrants, and all kinds of things. Yeah, he scares me, and also I respect people who can. And he can't. It hurts me to hear him speak. Like, literally, he has no substance or details in his words. It's just all yelling. And I teach argument, and that's the exact opposite of what I want my students to do.
Well, my daughter says she's moving to Canada if he gets elected.
I've heard people say that. I don't think I'll do that. It's too much involved in moving. But, yeah, I definitely no. I would not call him an anti-hero.
Well, speaking of Trump and Ted Cruz and I guess the Republican establishment, talking about feminism, would you say that they are against feminism? When they keep saying they want to make America great again, my interpretation is they want to go back to the 1950s where women stayed home, had babies, cooked, clean, and all that, and had the racial divide. I mean, that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but it's, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Yeah.
It's a duck.
Yeah, that's sort of how I feel. And Trump is, is coming from a place where he seems to only really focus on what women look like. And Cruz is coming from a very evangelical background, and so he's got that very sort of biblically Christian view of the place of women, that it's they might be feminist in some ways, but they don't seem to be. Yeah, they certainly don't seem like they would fight to help women in certain situations, and even if they would, if a woman is treated equally by being allowed to have certain jobs and paid the same as a man, even if that happens and yet she's still only being talked about because of how she looks, that doesn't help anything. That doesn't get us anywhere.
No, it don't, and I agree with you. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And speaking of feminism, I understand that you do yoga as a hobby.
I do. I went to yoga class tonight after I taught all my classes. I went and did an hour and 15 minutes of yoga for the first time in like 3 weeks. I've been able to go, and I was so happy. It's something I've been doing fairly regularly now for the past 2 years, and I try to go once a week. Sometimes I go twice a week, and it's just a good way to get some exercise and to shut my mind off for a while. And it's a nice sort of quiet, calming space.
And it's way harder than it looks for everybody out there saying yoga, yeah, right.
Oh, it is hard. My husband took some yoga classes with me, and he liked them, but he finds them really hard. And a couple of times I've taken him to some 2-hour workshops where the kind of yoga I do is called yin, so we hold poses for a really long time, and it all works on opening up your hips. And let me tell you, by the end of the 2 hours, my husband was not happy. And there are people who come and take their first class, and particularly the kind that I do, where they're like, oh, it's not a lot of movement, you just hold things for like 3 minutes, and they all change their mind by the end. They're like, this was hard.
Yeah, I don't think that some of those poses, I don't think I could hold for no 3 minutes. It's hard for me to do a lot of.
Yeah, well, thank goodness the kind I do, a lot of balance is not involved, because my balance is very bad. So, but the ones we do, it can hurt after a while, but the teacher's wonderful, and she always reminds us if it gets too hard, just you don't need to keep holding the pose. You have to listen to your body and do what your body wants.
Well, I'm going to paint a picture for you. Imagine a 6'3", 300-plus man trying to do yoga. Now, what do you think that turned out to be?
Hey, Jacob said that.
Yeah, but he ain't 63 and 300
Any body type can do yoga.
Any
body type.
My yoga is more like, okay, get it up and then fall over.
Well, Jacob's favorite pose is Fat Man Dying. He says that he created that, and he's holding on to it.
Yeah,
I think anybody who can do yoga, I really do. You all that could bend and flex and hold and squat, oh my gosh, more power to you. Wow.
It's good exercise. It really is, and it does help like concentrate your mind and turn off your monkey mind from the day. Calm down the monkey up there. Get it to go to sleep for a while.
I don't know about that, but it makes my monkey mind scream out pain.
I've never went to an actual class. I have like these DVDs, and I'll always look up stuff because I like to do, and I'm not even, I like yoga. I'm not sure the difference in all the different ones, but I do like when I run across one that really focuses on the breathing and relaxing while you're doing the poses. It is, even though it is hard, and you do feel it in your muscles, the breathing really makes a big difference in relaxing. And
it really does. And the breathing is something you can then take and use at other times. So sometimes if I can't sort of get calm enough to go to sleep, I focus on my breathing. Or if I'm getting anxious, I focus on my breathing. So it's a good thing you can take with you and use at other times.
Yeah, it did. I never really, until I started doing yoga, I never realized how much breathing did affect you, like being able to makes you feel like you're more open and being able to relax and concentrate. And I really do. I love just doing the breathing and the poses at the same time and just relaxing. I mean, even though it's hard work, it is relaxing.
It is.
Yep.
Well, I know there's another hobby you do, belly dancing. You want to?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Because I am fascinated with belly dancers.
Well, and the kind I do isn't the kind that people typically think of either. Most people, when they think of belly dance, they think of like what would be called Egyptian style. And the kind that I've been doing for about 4 years now is called improvisational tribal style. And it's really an American invention, and it takes traditional belly dance moves, and instead of learning choreography, it's, as my belly dance teacher always likes to say, it's like a big game of follow the leader. You learn the moves and you learn the little cues that the leader gives to signal what you're going to do, and the leader does them, and everybody else just follows along. And it's sort of traditional, and it also is kind of modern. Some of it incorporates more modern dance, but it's based on belly dance moves, so a lot of very isolated core movements. So it's a good exercise. Definitely is a workout, and it's a workout for the brain too, because you have to watch the leader and see what she's. And it's even more of a workout on the brain when you change leadership mid-song and you end up being the leader, and you suddenly have to think of what you want everybody to do, and you realize your mind has gone completely blank and you don't remember anything. And so you just keep repeating the same move.
I would like to try it, though, but I have seen things where they say, I'm not sure what, they consider this type of belly dancing, but is it true that they use it sometimes to like tell it? They used to tell stories by it. Is that?
That might be in Egyptian. In a lot of the other more modern styles, it doesn't really. But I mean, the closest we would get to that would be in like trying to match our movements to the song, to tell kind of a story that way. Not fully acting it out, but doing that, or trying to convey emotions. Really, some of the other styles might do that, but the one that I do doesn't, so I can't really say too much about it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I got into that doing belly dance about 4 years ago because it was something I was always interested in trying, and I happened to just run into somebody one day who was giving a demonstration, and she had classes, and I started taking it in part to challenge myself, and that's what I found to be pretty awesome about that and the yoga, is they're both ways for me to kind of get out of my comfort zone and challenge myself. And particularly with the belly dance, having to perform, well, we don't have to perform, but we have performed sometimes in front of people, and that's really helped sort of push me out of my comfort zone.
Oh, I know about that comfort zone. Lord have mercy.
Yep.
Yeah,
well,
I could do it.
I do get to wear really thin clothes, though. I get to wear nice, big, frilly skirts and lots of jangly jewelry, so that's nice.
Well,
do you have like a little finger tap thing? Do you use those?
Sorry, what?
Like the little finger symbol things that y'all.
Oh, I've been trying to teach myself those. They're called zills, and I have a pair, and occasionally we'll work on doing them, and I can get a rhythm going if I'm not moving, but the problem was when I try to dance and cymbal at the same time, I end up losing either the rhythm of the cymbals or the dance moves. So that is really hard. It's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. People can do it. I have friends who can do it, but I'm not there yet.
I don't think I could do it.
I can definitely say I can't.
I'm doing good to speak and walk at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually how my teacher had us start to learn how to do them, is just we'd sit on the floor and she'd teach us the rhythm, and we would sit and do the rhythm, and then she'd be like, okay, stand up while doing the rhythm, now just walk and do it. And slowly try to get used to doing more than one thing at a time.
Well, do you have any more books in the future? And if so, can you maybe tell us what they're maybe based on or whatever you're
Really,
researching?
just more explorations of kind of what I've been working on. William Blake is still very much an interest of mine, and he, in his poems and in a lot of his paintings and sketches, there are kind of these violent moments that he talks about. And so I'm doing kind of some research now into those violent moments because sometimes the violence seems to lead to something good. So there's that complexity again, a violent moment leading to something good. So I'm kind of working on exploring how he uses violence in his poems. And then I also am working on like a follow-up to the Hannibal Lecter book I already have out because when I wrote that, the TV show hadn't been out. And since that was published, there have been 3 seasons of the show Hannibal. And so I'm thinking of revisiting the ideas and seeing if I can find the same kind of ideas and themes in the show that I saw in the movies and the novels.
Cool. Have you ever thought of maybe working with within the movies or TV with any writings that you've done?
Not really. And part of those I just don't have time to do as much writing and stuff that I want to. I don't really have time during the academic year to do much of my own research or writing because I'm busy grading and prepping classes, and so I can kind of only have a couple of plates in the air at a time. So right now I don't have any ideas for that.
Well, cool. I understand because I tell you what, with us, we've tried to do. I've had people want me to write a book with Black Diamond, and I can't write. I'm lucky to spell my name.
It's harder to write than people think. Because I have good ideas in my head, and then I go to put them on paper, and they never seem as good when I write them down. It takes a really long time.
It's like in my head, it all sounds really good, and then when I go to write it down, I'm like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yep. And it's just, for me, writing is a really long process because I'm never quite happy with what I've done.
Oh, that sounds like me. Everything I do. I ain't never happy with it, but I try.
Yeah, you tend to be a perfectionist, but you're your own worst critic. I'll be like, "Oh, looks good. That sounds good," and you're like, "I don't like it."
Well, that's true. Well, since I got you on, you can tell on Lee. So what stories has she told you about me? I mean, I'm kind of curious. So when I meet you, I don't know whether to run from you or be proud and go, "Hey, how you doing?"
I don't remember the details of them, but she's told me about you having various run-ins with various types of people, and that you like to rile up people, and so she's told me various stories on that kind of theme. Like, one time my daddy did this, and then she'll tell about you meeting up with somebody and craziness ensuing. Essentially, those are the kinds of stories I've been told.
Yeah, yes, they all too.
You know what makes her so proud is that she said that one day, "Daddy, you're going to make me a very wealthy woman," and I do appreciate that.
Well, I tell you, all the stories she has told. I'm like, if you write these down, people will buy them. They will.
Well, like I told her, there'll be people coming up to me going, "I don't believe that's true. Prove it."
Yep.
She's like, "Well, Daddy, just prove it." I'm like, I'm getting older, honey. I'm not the man I used to be.
Yeah, Lee's a mess. She is going to make it big, and it's not going to be from you, Rod.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, I'm proud. I'm proud as hell of her. Ever since she was running around the house barking like a dog, which worried me there for a long time, She's like 4 years old. I mean, it was a constant. And, she's probably listening right now going, "Damn it, Daddy." But she'd run around and, sniff at my feet and hike her leg up. And I'm like, I asked my wife, I'm like, is this something that's natural? Will she grow out of this? She's like, I don't
Well, she
know.
did, I'm guessing.
Well, I haven't seen her do it around me. I don't know about anybody else, but she hasn't done it around me.
It just means she had a really good imagination.
Oh,
yes,
Lordy.
she did. So, you have any plans for 2016? Any big projects you're working on you want to tell everybody?
Well, just gonna try to do some more of this research into the projects I was talking about. I've got the one anti-hero class that I'm doing this semester, and I'm gonna teach a different one it's slightly the same but a little bit different in the fall. So I'll spend some of the summer doing some prep work for that. Occasionally I give lectures over at like community high school. So I gave one over there, like last Friday. So so other stuff like that might come up sometimes. But pretty much just the rest of my big plans for 2016 are to try to find some time to spend with my family in the summer, since I don't get as much time during the year when my daughter's at school and I'm teaching and we're all working. And try to read more, because that's a crazy thing about being an English professor, is you get into it because you love to read, and then you find out when you start teaching you don't really have all that much time to read stuff for fun anymore. So I usually get a big old stack of books and read through them in the summer, although many of them are on my Kindle, so it's not a big stack. It's just, multiple listings on one thing now. But I don't know what I'll focus on reading this summer, but last summer I read books that I'd always wanted to read, like Fight Club and American Psycho, and I read 2 books about the history of Wonder Woman that were fascinating. And so I don't know what I'll end up looking at this time, but I'll probably spend a lot of time reading and just getting more ideas of things I can teach and ideas for things I want to explore, and maybe eventually start working on another idea.
Well, I've noticed that you spoke about Marvel and DC Comics.
Yes.
I take it you're a big fan of the Marvel and DC world?
More Marvel than DC.
Mm.
But I came late to comics. I did not really read them growing up. So this is something I got into later. And I do believe that comic books are just as good as like regular books. So I'm a big proponent of you're never too old to read them. And I like the Marvel ones better. My husband actually used to collect comic books, and he was very much into Marvel. Our daughter, for some reason, seems to like DC better, but we don't know why. So,
I never know the difference in them. My son yells at me all the time because he'll say this one or that one. He has these trivia games, and I never get any of them right. Because I'm all old school. If it's not Superman, Batman, and Robin, or Spider-Man, yep, I don't know who they are.
The easiest way to tell them apart is, in general, the Marvel ones have more complex characters, more characters like Deadpool and the Punisher and Daredevil that are more kind of vigilante and dark, and DC has more of the sort of straightforward heroes, although they do have Batman, who is like one of my favorites. But I prefer the darker ones.
I think Batman is the ultimate superhero.
Yep.
However, Deadpool is right there at my top ranking now. I know he's technically not a hero. He
does good things. Yeah, so he counts. I like Batman a lot because he doesn't have superpowers. I like my superheroes and my anti-heroes as people that are like can outsmart other people, or they're just more patient or more bullheaded. They can't deflect bullets, they can't fly, but they'll stand up and fight for people. That's the kind of hero I like. So I like Batman a lot.
Yeah, I like Batman. But my favorite comic books is stuff like The Walking Dead. I'm kind of a morbid person.
I love The Walking Dead. We watched the TV show. I've read some of the comics. I love creepy stuff like that.
I mean, I'm like heartbroken because everybody keeps telling me that my Daryl has died, and I'm like, no, he hasn't. It's Abraham. I know it's Abraham, and I'll get mad, and they're like, calm down.
I think it's Eugene personally, but I'm probably really wrong.
Well, Walking Dead is not real significant.
Yeah, I know. The Walking Dead's a good example for anti-heroes, too, especially on the TV show Carol, because she does so many bad things, but she does it to protect people. So she is like, and there are very few female anti-heroes. Carol
is a perfect. You are so right.
Yep. There really aren't many, and there are a couple, like there are a couple in the Marvel world, and then there's Carol on The Walking Dead, and part of it is that women generally aren't just as physically powerful or physically violent most of the time, so that takes away some of the anti-hero-ness. Otherwise, I don't know why there aren't more.
I know. You're right. You are so right about Carol. She is just, I'm telling you, she's one badass woman.
She is. I want to be her if I'm ever in a zombie apocalypse.
I definitely want somebody like her on my team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to give y'all a spoiler alert, but if you go by the comic book, Glenn is the one who dies.
Yeah, I know that's. I just don't think they'd do it, but they might. I don't know. I can't figure out.
Daryl, I can survive with somebody else. But if it's Daryl, I swear I'll probably quit watching it. My heart would break in half.
I think a lot of people's would. Yep.
Yeah, I think my heart was great. Hello?
I hear you. Can you not hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you need to stick your head out the window and grab that antenna by the TV so that way you can pick up your signal.
Now, I know I live up here in West Virginia and all, but we do have pretty good cell towers and these fancy finagled, technology nowadays.
I didn't say that. You did.
No, but you was thinking it. I know you, and you was thinking it. You're thinking she's up there in them hills, can't get no signal.
No. Well, we're getting down to the next last 5 minutes. So, can you tell everyone how to purchase a copy of your book and any contact information you'd like to share?
Well, the best way to get it is it is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So the best way is probably just to order it online. So you can just go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and put in the title of the book, Thomas Harris and William Blake, or you can put in my name, and my last name spelled Gompf, and there are very few Gomphs in the world, but there are a couple other books that will come up. So make sure you put in Michelle in front of it, and then you can find it there. I don't really have a web page, but I do have an author page on Amazon, so people can find some contact information there. If anybody would want to email me, they are more than welcome to it, michellegomph@gmail.com, if people had any questions or wanted to get into contact with me. But other than that, I'm not a social media person. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have a website. I just sort of stick my head down and do my stuff and, just avoid a lot of the social media.
It's like, oh my God, she's not plugged in.
I know, it's crazy.
Would it be creepy if I said, okay, when you come up with a class where you have Carol as the anti-hero and you have a whole session on her, message me. I'm only like 5 minutes away from Concord. I'm right here on the edge, on the other side of Athens. I'll come down and sit in your class.
I would love that, and if people would ever, if people want me to come and talk about anti-heroes or pop culture, I am more than happy to. Like I said, I've given some talks at community high school here in Roanoke, and at the end, I always feel like I need to thank them for letting me talk for an hour about stuff that I love. It's so much fun.
We appreciate you coming on our show and talking to us. You really have. I've learned a lot from you this hour.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. I wasn't sure what to expect or what I could even really talk about, but it seems to have gone by very quickly.
It sure has.
The way I have the platform for my show is you talk about whatever you want to talk about. We'll sit here and we listen.
No, that sounds good. I'll need to keep that in mind. If I ever have something I need to get off my chest, I'll just see if you'll have me on and let me talk.
Oh, heck yeah. I had one guest on a few weeks ago. He broke out the song. He sung to us, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting that, but hell yeah.
Well, I won't do that. I will save you from my singing voice, so that's not going to happen.
Well, damn. I was looking forward to being serenaded again. Well, I guess that's about it because we got about 2 minutes left. And again, like I said, I appreciate you coming on the show. Can't wait to meet you in a couple of weeks, and
Yep.
You probably take off running, but
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to remind her that I need to meet you face to face because we've emailed and now we've talked, and now I need to actually meet you and shake your hand.
Okay, well, that sounds good, and I'd be an honor to meet you too. Shake your hand. I promise I won't hurt you. I'm a big guy, but I'm weak in my old age.
He's a little intimidating.
Well, you're welcome back here anytime. And there again, like I said, I thank you so much for coming on the show, and we do greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You have a great night.
Well, that's it for us tonight. I want to thank Dr. Gomph for coming on the show, and thank everyone who took the time to listen and take part. I'd like to give a big shout out to Vibe Radio Network, also to the first responders and our men and women in the armed services. Thank you all for your service. Our guest for Thursday night, April 21st, would be G. Tom Mack. He is the writer, singer, and creator of the masterpiece Cry Little Sister as a theme song to the now classic film The Lost Boys. So turn in next week to another exciting show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be safe and have a good night.
Good night, y'all.